Hi everyone and welcome to FilmDirt. For this one I'm going to be talking about Superman Returns. I've just spoken about the previous 4 Superman movies with Christopher Reeve, so I've got to review this one as well, haven't I? Considering it's kind of a pseudo sequel, I think I've seen it referred to as. It loosely follows the previous films. He's in the same timeline, and I think it's just the first 2 movies, is it? Following, maybe. In its own right, it's pretty good. But however, there are problems with it. I thought overall, throughout the movie, there's a very dour, well, not so much dour, but a sad tone, because you've got Clark Kent seeing Lois Lane, the love of his life, with another man. And I know, to get this film made, you had to bring more story to the table. You have to, let him meet dilemmas, and you can't tell the same movie again, as I've often said before. You've got to think of new ways to treat our characters, and the situations to put them in have got to be different. Introducing new characters and new problems for them. But I just felt, with the good heart and the uplifting themes set by the previous films, what Donna did, was to give it a lot of heart. There's almost a homely theme going on with, how wholesome the character is, and his dear old mother, who he sends part of his wages to, and his Earth father, who sadly lost his life. You feel for the guy. There's some good character there. Superbly brought to the screen by Christopher Reeve, who's absolutely awesome. I think Routh did excellent here. It's really understated how good Brandon actually was. I mean, it's a fantastic performance in my eyes. None of the film's problems can be attributed to him. I'll just try and go through a few thoughts I have on the film, having re-reviewed it again recently. I think it's great overall, but it's woefully let down. Like I touched on earlier, I think there's a sad mood to the film. I didn't want to see him sad. It's horrible, seeing the love of his life, move on almost. I know he had to leave and to almost soul search by going back to the wreckage of Krypton. You can kind of understand why he did that. It's almost like revisiting your old school or going back to your childhood town. I think you've got to do it, haven't you? I mean, I went back to my little village in Scotland where I was brought up, and I've often gone back to Scotland, and they're surprised I've lost my Scottish accent, although I do dip into it occasionally. Long viewers that joined me from my first video will see that, I still slip into it when I'm a bit angry. So, with what I've seen, so you can't leave everything behind. So I think the story of Kal-El, I nearly said Clark Kent there. He's Kal-El still, isn't he? We're going back to see what's going on, in the space where Krypton used to be. You can almost believe it. He's got to scrub that out of his mind. He's got to put it to bed and move on. So going back there is, we all get it. So he's come back disappointed that there's nothing there. Nothing set up, no civilization, nothing. It's just all ruins. So he's come back after a long period away, and his girlfriend's now moved on in life, found a new partner, and got a child. And we don't know at this point who's the father of the child. So that's quite sad. I just didn't like it. I love the music as well. A lot of the John Williams themes are here, and there's some sad music here, and I didn't like it. I didn't like to hear it, because I admired the character set up by Chris Reeve. You almost want to be a parent to him. Make sure everything's okay because you feel for this man. You don't want to see him sad. So, I didn't like that part of this movie. There's a lot of strange things going on here as well. I don't think they really. Of course, they put in some effort into it. I know they put in a lot of effort, but I think someone should have proofread the script because there's a lot of boring stuff going on here. We didn't need to see the stuff with young Clark again. That was already set up. I mean, it's good to see him finding his powers and jumping higher, but we didn't need to see that again. I don't think that was time well spent. I loved it when he came back and he went back to see his old mum back in the farmhouse. I mean, that's all good stuff. There's some good stuff there. Almost touched you in the same way that the original films touched your heart. Then he moved back to Krypton and obviously fell into the hands of Lex Luthor again. And what is this guy up to? He's still up to real estate scams, and he played much more villainous than Gene Hackman did by Kevin Spacey. I don't know what to make of it. He sounded a lot like Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor. The voice was the same. I mean, fair play for bringing that character back. And you've got Kate Bosworth, who played Lois Lane. I don't think she was that good in the role. She seemed like a completely different character. She's always angry with Clark. Just that didn't seem to match with Margot Kidder's performance. It just seemed like a completely different character. And there was another character in the film played by Parker Posey. I read somewhere that a lot of people think she should have been cast as Lois Lane, and Kate Bosworth should have played Kitty. She's like the villain's mole. I think if they switched roles, I think that would have made more sense. Parker Posey, her character here is Lois Lane, or Margot Kidder's version of Lois Lane. They printed up the wrong contracts and they confused the characters' names because they're good, but they're in the wrong roles here. And James Marsden and Frank Langella, they're all good. There's all good performances here. I watched some of the behind-the-scenes materials on the DVD, and I do like watching some making-of videos. It does give you an insight, but when they're too overly processed and you can see they're kind of putting on some hijinks for the camera, and it's not really a behind the scenes look. They're actually making a film within a film, aren't they? They're acting for the behind the scenes video as well. I think they did that a lot here. There's a lot of hijinks. There's a lot of talking to camera and trying to play tricks on people. It wasn't really a behind the scenes video at all, really. We see a lot of the training from Brandon Routh, and we know he put on a lot of muscle and size, and that was all good, that part. But I think a lot of the stuff with the director Bryan Singer and his writers and a lot of his senior crew, it just looked like they were just talking heads to camera. We just want to see them work, and we want to see the process. A bit like some of the Star Wars behind the scenes documentaries. I think the ones for the prequels were excellent. You actually see the process that went into it, and all these skilled technicians going about their daily roles. I mean, it's almost like, I'm not saying we should have a Big Brother show where we have cameras following everyone around the studio, but we want to see, what happened there, because we're all fans of certain movies, and we always want to delve into it and find out what happened and almost find out how they lived their daily lives. I mean, there's almost another story to be had with the behind the scenes materials, isn't there? Found it all really disappointing. I mean, stop going into the camera and just let us see how you're doing your job. You don't need to see all this. And almost like you're distracted by the behind the scenes crew joining you on set. Just get on with your job. The film suffered, I think, for a lack of direction. I'm sure Warner's liked the angle that it was going to be following the Chris Reeve movies, and they found a fantastic actor to play the Chris Reeve version of Superman. I mean, he practically did return. The character did return to the movie, didn't he? I think Brandon was excellent, as I said before, and Warner's gave it the green light, and they thought, right, what do we do now? We've got a script really which is a little bit lean, and we should really put some material here. I mean, nothing really happens apart from Lex Luthor's real estate scam. I mean, he's got a lot more henchmen this time. There's just seems to be a lot of guys around. I mean, before he only had Otis in the first movie, didn't he, really? And somehow he made the underground lair. We didn't see all these people, really. Now we've got some men just hanging around. Don't know these guys. Haven't really been introduced. There's a big guy and there's a smaller guy, and there just seems to be soft focus standing next to Lex. Who are they and why are they there? And I've got to address the filter used on this film. I don't know what happened here. It's almost like a sepia. It's not orange, is it? It's desaturation, but I think they went too far. Everyone's gold. I mean, people don't look like that. I don't know what they're doing. It's supposed to be an uplifting movie, as I keep saying. That's the word that keeps coming into my head when I think of Superman Returns. It's not. Something went wrong here. This film needs a remaster, maybe a recut, a re-edit. But to this day, I think they made a mistake. I mean, how did this get through quality control? It's not supposed to look like this. You put all this effort in, and this is your calling. This is your big movie. It's such a big brand, isn't it? Superman. There's very little brands which are bigger than this, and it's almost been spoiled. But I can't diss the film too much. I mean, there's some good stuff here. It's just horribly let down by a lack of direction and a lack of story. And some of the flying effects here they're not good. There just seem to be a lot of digital stunt doubles. It doesn't look good. Sometimes there's a couple of shots here where the double of Brandon Routh comes right up to the camera, and you can tell there's something not real there. And how did this get by? I mean, you can see in the documentary that they're honing the same techniques that they did in the previous films. I mean, they've got a man suspended on wires and removing the wires in post-production. And so you've got it. You've got the techniques there. And now you've got more modern special effects. I mean, it just looks so bad. For me, I've got to say this is a 3-star movie. And those 3 stars, they're for Brandon Routh's performance, who I think is absolutely amazing. I mean, it was almost like Chris Reeve was back acting and playing the role. And he almost played it a downbeat. And that's what the script and the story was about, wasn't it? So, yeah, 3 stars for this one. I hope there's an HBO Max series for Brandon to continue playing Superman, because I think there will be an audience for that for sure. And it sounds like he'd be open to playing the character again. So that would be fantastic. I hope they get that off the ground. So just to finish off with a little bit about myself. This is a new channel, as I'm sure you've seen. So just to let you know that I'm not accepting any freebies from any of the studios for any of my reviews. There's no incentives for me to give good reviews, and I always speak my mind, and all of my views are absolutely genuine. So thanks again for joining me for this review. It was good speaking to you, and I'll see you again for another review. Take care.